Chapter 5: A Bizarre Adventure into Morning Mastery. Everyone holds his fortune in his own hands, like a sculptor the raw material he will fashion into a figure. The skill to mold the material into what we want must be learned and attentively cultivated. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. If you two are interested, said the homeless man, I'd be happy to spend a few mornings coaching you at my oceanside compound. I'll show you my private morning routine and explain why dialing in the way you run your first hour to the highest degree is essential for personal mastery and exceptional business performance. Let me do this for you cats. Your lives will start to look glorious within a fairly short time. And the ride with me will be fun. Not always easy, as we heard from the old guy on the stage. But valuable and prolific and beautiful. Maybe even as wonderful as the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. First time I saw it I cried, the artist said, stroking the hairs of his goatee. Michelangelo was a bad dude. And I mean that in a good way, the homeless man offered as he, too, played with his beard, which was soiled. He then raised his shirt to show Greek god abdominal muscles. A long finger of a grimy hand moved along the contours, the way a raindrop zigzags down the stem of a rose after a May shower. Hit me with a stick, shouted the artist with the enthusiasm of a cat let loose in a parrot shop. How the heck did you get those? Not from some plastic ab machine I bought from a late-night TV show, that's for sure. Work is how I got all lean and chiseled up like this. Plenty of push-ups, pull-ups, planks, sit-ups and seriously sweaty cardio sessions, often on my special beach. The homeless man pulled out an obviously expensive leather wallet, then carefully removed from it a piece of plastic with a drawing on it. Here's what it looked like, so you see exactly what the entrepreneur and the artist saw in that moment. Without allowing for any responses from his two listeners, the disheveled drifter kept on speaking. Commitment, discipline, patience and work. Values few believe in these days, where so many have an entitlement mentality, expecting a rich, productive and fulfilling life to just show up one day like a sparrow at the beginning of spring. And expecting everyone around them to invest the effort they are responsible for inputting. Where's the leadership in this way of operating? A society of adults behaving like spoiled little children is how I sometimes see our world right now. Not judging, just saying. Not complaining, just reporting. Hey, cats, here's the point I'm trying to make by letting you have a peek at my sculpted abs. Nothing works for those who don't do the work. Less talk and more do is what I say. Oh, and check this out. The hobo spun around and unbuttoned his hole-ridden shirt. On his firm, striated back was a tattoo with the words, "Victims love entertainment. Victors adore education. Come hang with me at my place on a magical little island in the middle of a fantastic ocean, 5 hours from the coast of Cape Town." He handed the entrepreneur the plastic card with the seaside scene etched on it. "Those are my dolphins," he said, happily pointing to the hand-drawn image. "The trip will be so worth it," he continued. "The adventure of a lifetime, for sure. Some of your most valuable and sensational moments ever will unfold there. You need to take a trust walk with me, people. I'll teach you everything I know about a world-class morning ritual. I'll help you both become members of the 5 a.m. club. You'll learn to rise early, regularly, so you'll get more done by noon than most people get done in a week, and so you'll optimize your health, happiness and peacefulness. There's a reason so many of the great achievers of the world get up before the sun. It's the most special part of the day. I'll explain how I used this revolutionary method to build my empire. And, to be clear, empires arrive in many forms. Economic is just one of them. You can also create empires of artistry, productivity, humanity, philanthropy, personal freedom and even spirituality. I'll download pretty much everything I've been blessed to have been taught by the mentor who transformed my life. You'll discover so much. You'll be moved at the deepest level. You'll see the world through an all-new set of lenses. You'll also eat the finest food and watch the most spectacular sunsets. You guys can swim in the sea, go snorkeling with the dolphins and fly over the sugar cane stalks that dance in the wind in the helicopter I own. And should you both accept my heartfelt invitation to visit me, I insist you stay at my home. My God, you're kidding me, right? Boomed the artist. It was becoming increasingly evident that, like many in his field, he was acutely emotional, vigilant to the infinitesimal and carried a sensitivity born of latent pain. Those who feel more than most people sometimes believe they have been cursed. In fact, they have been granted a gift. One that allows them to sense what others miss, experience the delights that most neglect and notice the majesty in ordinary moments. Yes, such people get hurt more easily, yet they are also the ones who create great symphonies, architect dazzling buildings and find cures for the sick. Tolstoy once noted that, only people who are capable of loving strongly can suffer great sorrow, while the Sufi poet Rumi wrote, "You have to keep breaking your heart until it opens." The artist seemed to personify these insights. Nope. Totally serious, dudes, the homeless man said enthusiastically. I have a house not far from a village called Solitude. And believe me, they named it accurately. It's only when you get away from the noise and nuisance and be in quiet and tranquility that you remember who, and all, you're truly meant to be. Just say yes to life. And let's do this. Like the guru on the platform said, a magic will show up for you the more you start exploiting the terrific opportunities that appear along your path, seemingly by accident. You can't win a game you don't play, right? The reality is that life has got your back, even when it doesn't look like it does. But you need to do your part and go all in when windows of opportunity appear. Oh, and if you come to my home on the island, the only thing I ask is that you stay long enough for me to teach you the philosophy and methodology that my secret advisor shared with me. Joining the 5 a.m. club requires a little time. The homeless man paused before adding, I'm also going to take care of all your expenses. Everything's covered. I'll even send my private jet to pick you guys up, if that's cool. The entrepreneur and the artist glanced at each other, amused, confounded and entirely uncertain. Mind if my friend and I have a few moments alone, brother? Requested the artist, notebook still in hand. No sweat, sure. Take all the time you need. I'll just go back to my seat over there and make some calls to my executive team, mentioned the homeless man as he paced away. This is absurd. Just asinine, the artist said to the entrepreneur. I agree with you that there's something special about him. Maybe even something magical. I know how insane that sounds. And I am fascinated by this mentor he keeps talking about, this teacher who sort of sounds like a modern-day master. I'll admit that this street person has got some great insights, for sure. And he obviously seems to have a lot of experience. But just look at him. Man, the guy looks completely down and out, a complete mess. I don't think he's had a shower in weeks. His clothes are all ripped. He's beyond freaky. And sometimes he talks total crazy talk. We have no idea who he is. This could be dangerous. He could be dangerous. Yes, definitely super weird. Everything that's happened here today is super weird, confirmed his companion. The entrepreneur's lean face then softened. Her eyes still seemed melancholic, though. I'm at a place in my life where I need to make some big changes, she confided. I just can't keep going on like this. I hear what you're saying. I've been suspicious of pretty much everyone and everything ever since I lost my dad when I was 11. A daughter growing up without a father is incredibly scary. To be honest, I still carry a lot of the emotional trauma with me. I think of him every day. I've had some bad intimate relationships. I've struggled a lot with low self-worth and made some horrible choices in the relationships I've had. About a year ago I started seeing a therapist who made me aware of why I was behaving the way I was behaving, the entrepreneur continued. Psychologists call it fatherless daughter syndrome. Deep within, I had a huge fear of abandonment and all the strong insecurities that come with that wound. Yes, this made me extraordinarily tough on the outside, and ruthless in some ways. The chip on my shoulder over the loss of my father gave me my drive and my ambition. Yet the loss also left me empty within. I'm learning that I've been trying to fill the void that he left, when he left, by pushing myself to exhaustion in my work with the belief that when I'm even more successful I'll get the love I lost. I've been attempting to fill my emotional holes by chasing more money like a heroin addict needing a fix. I've been starving for social status and hungry for industry approval, escaping online for quick pleasure hits of entertainment when I could be doing things that matter. As I said, I'm realizing a lot of my behavior has been pushed from the fear created by my early challenges as a young woman. I felt inspired when the Spellbinder spoke about never doing something for the money but, instead, reaching for world class as a leader and a person for the meaning it provides, for the opportunity to grow it provokes and for a shot at changing the world. His words made me feel so hopeful. I want to live in the way he spoke of, but I'm nowhere near that place now. And recently, What's happened at my company pushed me to the edge. I'm really not doing well at life right now. I only came to this meeting because my mom gave me a free ticket. And I'm so desperate for a change. The entrepreneur took a deep breath. Sorry, she apologized, looking embarrassed. I hardly know you, so I'm not sure why I'm revealing all this to you. I guess I just feel safe with you. I'm not sure why. I'm so sorry if I'm oversharing. No problem, said the artist. His body language showed he was engaged. He no longer anxiously played with his goatee and dreadlocks. We're so honest when we chat with taxi drivers and other people we don't really know, right? The entrepreneur went on. All I'm trying to say is that I'm ready for a transformation. And my gut tells me this down and out man who wants to teach us how an excellent morning routine can build creative, productive, financial and happiness empires really can help me. And help us. And, she added, remember his watch. I like him, said the artist. He's a character. I love that he expresses himself so poetically sometimes and so passionately at others. He thinks so vividly and quotes George Bernard Shaw like his life depended on it. Really cool. But I still don't really trust him, the artist expressed as he punched a fist into an open palm again. Probably ripped the watch off some rich idiot. Look, I understand how you're feeling, responded the entrepreneur. A lot of me feels the same way. And you and I just met as well. I'm not sure what it would be like to go on this trip with you. I hope you don't mind me saying that. You seem like such a nice person. A few rough edges maybe. I think I understand where those come from. But you're good deep down. I know it. The artist looked mildly pleased. He glanced at the homeless man, who was eating slices of avocado from a plastic bag. I'll have to see if I can arrange my schedule to be away from the office so we can spend time with him, shared the entrepreneur as she pointed to the homeless man. While he was munching on his snack, he was also talking on a relic of a mobile phone and staring at the ceiling. I'm starting to like the idea of spending some time near a village called Solitude on some tiny island, eating fabulous food and swimming with wild dolphins. I'm beginning to feel this will be a phenomenal adventure. I'm starting to feel more alive again. Well, now that you say it that way, I'm liking the sound of this, too, said the artist. I'm beginning to think there's a delicious insanity to all of this. A special opportunity to access a whole new universe of originality. This might be the best thing yet for my art. It makes me think of what the writer Charles Bukowski said, some people never go crazy. What truly horrible lives they must lead. And the Spellbinder did encourage us to leave the boundaries of our normal lives so we grow into our gifts, talents and strengths. Some instinct is also telling me to do this. So, if you go, I'll go. Well, you know what? I'll take the leap. It's done. I'm all in. Let's go, pronounced the entrepreneur. All in, agreed the artist. They both stood up and made their way to the homeless man, who was now sitting with his eyes closed. What are you doing now? Quizzed the artist. Intense visualization of all I want to be in the higher order life I wish to create. A Turkish fighter pilot once told me that before every flight, he'd fly before we'd fly. He was suggesting that meticulously rehearsing the way he and his team wanted the mission to unfold in the theater of his imagination set them up to execute that vision of mastery in reality, flawlessly. Your mindset is an enormously potent tool for private greatness, prodigious productivity and creative victory, along with your heart set, health set and soul set. I'll teach you all about these remarkable concepts if you accept my invitation. Anywho, back to why I closed my eyes. Nearly every morning, I envision my ideal performance for the day ahead. I also reach deep into my emotions so I feel what it will feel like when I achieve the wins I've planned to accomplish. I lock myself into an extremely confident state where any form of failure isn't within the realm of possibility. Then I go out and do my finest to live out that perfect day. Interesting. The entrepreneur was fascinated. This is just one of the SOPs I run daily to stay on peak. Good science is confirming that this practice helps me upregulate my genome by turning on genes that were previously asleep. Your DNA isn't your destiny, you know. Not to worry, cats. You'll learn about the breakthrough field of epigenetics when you're on the island. You'll also learn some beautiful neuroscience on multiplying your success in this age of scattered attention, so the weapons of mass distraction don't destroy your amazingness. I'll reveal everything I've discovered about creating projects that are so masterfully done they endure for generations. You'll hear about fabulous ways to armor plate your mental focus and fireproof your physical energy. You'll discover how the best businesspeople in the world build dominant enterprises and learn a calibrated system that the most joyful human beings on the planet apply each morning to create a life that borders on the magical. Oh, in case you were wondering, ESOP is a standard operating procedure. It's a term my special advisor used when he'd speak about the daily structures needed to find triumph at the game of life. I assume you two are coming. Yes, we're coming, confirmed the entrepreneur in an upbeat tone. Thank you for your offer. Yeah, thanks, man, added the artist, now looking more composed. Please, the entrepreneur said earnestly, teach us everything you know about creating the morning routine of a high-impact leader and a supremely successful businessperson. I desperately want to improve my performance and my daily productivity. I'll also need your help to restructure my life. To be honest, I'm feeling more inspired today than I've felt in a long time. But I'm not in the best place. Yeah, brother, said the artist. Tell us your secrets for an epic morning routine that helps me become the best painter, and man, I can become. He waved his notebook in the air as he spoke. Send us your plane. Take us to your village. Give us some coconuts. Let us ride your dolphins. And improve our lives. We're all in. None of what you'll discover will be motivation, noted the scraggly soul with a degree of seriousness he hadn't shown before. All of this will definitely be about transformation. And it will be supported by strong data, the latest research and immensely practical tactics that have been battle-tested in the tough trenches of industry. Get ready for the greatest adventure you cats will ever experience. Excellent, declared the entrepreneur as she reached out to shake the weather-beaten stranger's hand. I need to admit that this entire scenario has been extremely odd for both of us, but, for whatever reason, we now trust you. And, yes, we're totally open to this new experience. You're very kind to do this for us. Thank you, blurted out the artist. He looked somewhat surprised by the extent of his graciousness. Awesome. Smart decision, guys, came the warm response. Please be outside this conference center tomorrow morning. Bring at least a few days' worth of clothes. That's all. Like I said, I'm stoked to take care of everything else. All expenses are on me. I thank you. Why are you thanking us? Wondered the entrepreneur. The homeless man smiled tenderly and scratched his beard thoughtfully. In his final sermon before he was assassinated, Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You don't have to know about Plato and Aristotle to serve. You don't have to know Einstein's theory of relativity to serve. You don't have to know the second theory of thermodynamics and physics to serve. You only need a heart full of grace. A soul generated by love." The tramp wiped a morsel of avocado from the edge of his mouth and then carried on what he was saying. One of the big lessons I've learned over the years is that giving to other people is a gift you give to yourself. Raise the joy of others and you'll get even more joy. Increase the state of your fellow human beings and, naturally, your own state of being ascends. Success is cool, but significance is rad. Generosity, not scarcity, is the trait of all of the great men and women who have upgraded our world. And we need leaders, pure leaders and not narcissists obsessed with their own self-interests, as never before. The homeless man looked down at his large watch one last time. You can't take your title, net worth and fancy toys with you when you die, you know. I've yet to see a moving truck following a hearse on its way to a funeral. He chuckled. The two listeners grinned. He's a treasure, whispered the entrepreneur. Deaf as, acknowledged the artist. Stop saying "def" so much, said the entrepreneur. It's getting irritating. The artist looked a little shocked. Okay. All that matters on your last day on Earth is the potential you've leveraged, the heroism you've demonstrated and the human lives you've graced, the homeless man said eloquently. He then grew quiet, and let out a deep breath. Anywho, incredible that you're coming. We'll have a cool hang. May I bring my paintbrushes? The artist asked politely. Only if you want to paint in paradise, came the homeless man's reply with a wink. And what time should we meet you outside this place tomorrow morning? Asked the entrepreneur, placing her handbag onto a thin, bony shoulder. 5 a.m., instructed the homeless man. Own your morning. Elevate your life. Then, he disappeared. Chapter 6: A Flight to Peak Productivity, Virtuosity and Undefeatability. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Steve Jobs. I'm so tired, the entrepreneur muttered with the energy of an ancient turtle on a vacation day, while holding a monstrous cup of coffee. This journey might be harder than I thought. I'm starting to feel like I'm walking into a whole new world. Like I told you yesterday after the seminar, I'm definitely ready to change. Set for a new beginning. But I'm also feeling uneasy about all this. I didn't sleep much last night. Such eerie, and sometimes violent, dreams. And, yes, this experience we've agreed to might be dangerous. Well, I feel like death, man, said the artist. I hate being up this early. This was a terrible idea. The two brave souls were standing on the sidewalk outside the hall where the spellbinder had worked his legendary skills, and broken many hearts with his collapse, the day before. It was 4:49 a.m. He won't show up, barked the artist roughly. He was dressed in black with a ruby-red polka-dotted bandana on his left wrist. Same boots as yesterday, those Australian ones. He hurled a mouthful of spit into the desolate street. He squinted at the sky. And then he folded his tattooed arms. The entrepreneur had a nylon duffel bag over her shoulder. She styled a silk blouse with bohemian sleeves, designer blue jeans and a pair of sandals with high heels, the kind you see off-duty supermodels with sunglasses the size of Greek island sunsets wearing. Her lips were scrunched together and the lines on her face were arrayed in a series of interesting intersections. I'd bet the homeless man's a no-show, she said with a sneer. I don't care about his watch. It doesn't matter that he could be so articulate. It means nothing to me now that he reminded me of my dad. God, I'm exhausted. He was probably at the seminar because he needed a place to rest for a few hours. He probably knew about the whole 5 a.m. club morning routine because he heard, and stole, that bit of the spellbinder's presentation. And the private plane he talked about was probably part of his favorite hallucination. About his watch, it doesn't matter that he could be so articulate. It means nothing to me now that he reminded me of my dad. God, I'm exhausted. He was probably at the seminar because he needed a place to rest for a few hours. He probably knew about the whole 5 a.m. club morning routine because he heard, and stole, that bit of the spellbinder's presentation. And the private plane he talked about was probably part of his favorite hallucination. The entrepreneur had returned to her familiar skepticism and hiding within her fortress of protection. The hopefulness of the day before had clearly dissolved. Just then, a pair of strikingly powerful halogen headlights pierced the wall of darkness. The two companions looked at each other. The entrepreneur managed a smile. Okay, maybe instinct really is much smarter than reason, she muttered to herself. A gleaming Rolls-Royce, the color of coal, pulled up to the curb. With swift efficiency, a man in a crisp white uniform leapt out of the sedan and greeted the two with old-school civility. Good morning to you, madam. And to you as well, sir, he enunciated in a British accent as he placed their bags into the vehicle with one skillful swoop. Where's the derelict? Asked the artist with the tact of a hillbilly who'd never left the woods. The driver couldn't help but laugh. Quickly, he regained his composure. So sorry, sir. Yes, Mr. Riley dresses in very unassuming attire, shall we say. He does that when he feels the need to get gritty, as he classifies the practice. He leads a remarkably exclusive life most of the time and is a man accustomed to getting anything he wants. Everything he wants, to be more precise. So, once in a while, he does things to ensure his modesty and humility remain in check. That's part of his quirky charm, I might add. Mr. Riley asked me to give these to you. The driver pulled out 2 envelopes, made of the highest quality paper. On opening them, the entrepreneur and the artist saw these words. Hey, cats, hope you're awesome. Didn't mean to spook you both yesterday. I just needed to keep my boots on the ground. Epictetus, one of my favorite philosophers, wrote, but neither a bull nor a noble-spirited man comes to be what he is all at once. He must undertake hard winter training and prepare himself and not propel himself rashly into what is not appropriate to him. Voluntary discomfort, whether by dressing as I did or by fasting once a week or by sleeping on the floor once a month, keeps me strong, disciplined and focused on the central few priorities my life's built around. Anywho, have a tremendous flight, and I'll see you in paradise soon. Big hug. The driver continued, please remember that appearances can be misleading and clothing doesn't convey one's character. Yesterday you met a great man. Looks really do not reveal the quality of a person. I guess neither does shaving, proclaimed the artist, kicking a black boot against the shiny Rolls-Royce symbol at the center of one of the wheels. Mr. Riley would never tell you what I'm about to tell you as he's far too courteous and decent. But the gentleman you refer to as a derelict happens to be one of the wealthiest people in the world. Are you serious? Asked the entrepreneur, her eyes widening. I most certainly am. The driver smiled politely as he opened a door, waving a white-gloved hand to welcome both passengers into the vehicle. The seats had that marvelously musky smell of new leather. The wood paneling seemed like it had been prepared by hand, by a small family of finicky craftspeople who'd built their reputations around this singular obsession. Mr. Riley made his fortune many years ago, in various commercial ventures. He was also an early investor in what has now become an internationally admired company. Discretion prevents me from mentioning the name and, if Mr. Riley found out I was speaking of financial matters with you, he'd be exceedingly disappointed. His instructions were simply to treat you with the utmost of care along with assuring you of his sincerity and reliability. And to deliver you safely to Hangar 21. Hangar 21, the artist asked as he eased languidly into the opulent vehicle like a rock star accustomed to this method of transport or a hip-hop artist ready for a weekend role. That's where Mr. Riley's fleet of jets are kept, stated the driver succinctly. Fleet? Questioned the entrepreneur, her beautiful brown eyes alive with an immensely curious look. Yes, was all the chauffeur would allow. There was silence as the driver sped through the early morning streets. The artist looked out the window while rolling a bottle of water in one hand absent-mindedly. He hadn't seen the sun rising in many years. Very special, truly beautiful, he admitted. Everything's so peaceful at this time of the day. No noise, such peace. Even though I feel tired right now, I can really think. Things seem clearer. My attention isn't a mess. It feels like the rest of the world is asleep. What tranquility. A cavalry of wispy amber rays, the ethereal palette of the daybreak and the quietude of this moment left him encouraged. And awestruck. The entrepreneur studied the driver. So, tell me more about your boss, she requested, restlessly toying with her device as she spoke. I can't tell you much more. He's worth multiple billions of dollars. He's given most of his money to charity. Mr. Riley's the most fascinating, generous and compassionate person I know. He also has incredible willpower, along with having ironclad values, such as honesty, empathy, integrity and loyalty. And, of course, he's also a real oddball, if I may be so bold as to say so. Like a lot of the very, very, very rich. We've noticed, agreed the entrepreneur. I'm interested, though. What makes you say he's odd? You'll see, was the stark response. The Rolls soon arrived at a private airport. No sign of Mr. Riley. The driver accelerated up to an ivory jet that looked immaculately kept. The only color it bore appeared on the tail. In the hue of a mandarin orange, 3 characters read, 5AC. What does 5AC stand for? Asked the entrepreneur tensely, gripping her gadget tightly. The 5 a.m. Club. Own your morning. Elevate your life. It's one of the maxims Mr. Riley has conducted his many business interests under. And now, with regret, this is where I must bid you adieu. Au revoir, he said before carrying the luggage over to the sparkling aircraft. 2 handsome crew members chatted near the metal stairway that led up to the cabin. A tastefully refined blonde flight attendant handed the entrepreneur and the artist hot towels and offered them coffee from a silver tray. Dobro utro, she said, greeting them in Russian. It has been a great pleasure to meet you, the driver called up to the jet, as he got back into the car. Kindly convey my best wishes to Mr. Riley once you see him. And do have fun in Mauritius. Mauritius, the companions exclaimed, as surprised as a vampire waking up to a garlic clove. This is all unbelievable, the artist said as he climbed into the cabin. Mauritius. I've always wanted to go to that island, and I've read a bit about it. It's a high-frequency place. French flavor, tremendous beauty, and, from what they say, many of the warmest and happiest people on earth live there. I'm blown away, too, the entrepreneur said as she sipped her coffee and peeked into the cockpit. She studied the pilots as they performed their pre-flight preparation. I've also heard Mauritius is splendid, and that the people are super friendly, helpful and spiritually advanced. After a perfect takeoff, the first-class plane floated high into the clouds. Once at cruising altitude, premium champagne was served, caviar was recommended and an array of fabulous main courses were suggested. The entrepreneur was feeling fairly content and far less incited by the cruel attempt of her investors to take her company away from her. True, this might not be the ideal time to take a vacation to learn about the 5 a.m. Club philosophy and its underlying methodology that had served Mr. Riley's ascent to business titan and global philanthropist like rocket fuel. Or perhaps this was the perfect time to get away from her usual reality to discover how the most successful, influential and joyful people on the planet start their days. After sipping on some champagne, the entrepreneur watched a movie. She then fell into a deep sleep. The artist had a book called Michelangelo Fiorentino et Raphael da Urbino, Masters of Art in the Vatican. He read it for hours. You can just imagine how happy he felt. The jet made its trajectory over a number of vast continents and above varied terrain. The flight was meticulously conducted, and the landing was as fluid as the overall experience was fine. Bienvenue à l'île Maurice, announced the captain over the public address system as the aircraft taxied along the freshly paved runway. Merci beaucoup. Welcome to Mauritius and Sir Siwusugur Ramgoolam International Airport, he continued, speaking his words with the well-earned confidence of someone who had spent most of his life in the sky. It's been a privilege having you two VIPs with us. We'll see you again in several days, from what Mr. Riley's personal assistant has informed us of your itinerary. Thank you once again for flying with us, and we trust that the journey was elegant, excellent and above all else, safe. A polished black SUV glittered on the tarmac as the flight attendant escorted her special passengers off the plane and into the humming vehicle. Your luggage will follow shortly. Not to worry, it shall be delivered to your guest rooms at Mr. Riley's seaside estate. Spasiba, she added in a graceful tone and with an earnest wave. This is so A-list, observed the entrepreneur as she happily snapped some selfies, uncharacteristically pouting like a fashionista. Deaf, replied the artist, as he photobombed her, sticking out his tongue like Albert Einstein did in that famous photo that betrayed his seriousness as a scientist and revealed his undiminished childlike sense of wonder. As the Range Rover rolled along the highway, tall stalks of sugar cane swayed in the fragrant breezes blown by the Indian Ocean. The quiet chauffeur wore a white cap, the kind you see bellmen at five-star hotels wearing, and a well-pressed dark gray uniform that hinted at an understated yet refined professionalism. He never missed slowing down when the speed limit descended and ensuring his signal light was on whenever a turn was to be made. Though it was evident that the man was older, he moved the vehicle along the roadway with the precision of a young apprentice dedicated to becoming the absolute best. Through the drive, his focus remained transfixed on the pavement ahead, in a sort of trance designed to keep his passengers secure yet deliver them to their destination with a smooth efficiency. They passed through some tiny villages that had a timeless feel. Bougainvillea lined the streets, wild dogs with king of the road demeanor stood at the meridian line, confronting the SUV in a deadly game of chicken, and children played on small grassy lawns with thoughtless abandon. Roosters could be heard shrieking from time to time, and old men in basic woolen hats with tooth-missing mouths and chestnut-colored skins sat on weather-beaten wooden chairs. They looked like they had too many hours to pass in the day, at once tired from life's hardships and yet wise from days fully lived. Choirs of upbeat birds sang melodically while colorful butterflies seemed to be fluttering everywhere. In one tiny community the SUV snaked through. A skinny boy with legs that appeared too long for his body pedaled a banana bike with a seat that was set too high on its creaky metal frame. In another, a group of teenaged girls in tank tops, surf shorts and flip-flops shuffled along the narrow but attentively maintained road, following a man in army green cargo shorts wearing a t-shirt that had the number 1 flame-grilled chicken printed on the back of it. Everything seemed to move on island time. People looked cheerful. They beamed with a radiant vitality not so commonly seen in the overscheduled, machine-dominated and sometimes soulless lives so many among us are experiencing. The beaches were unspeakably beautiful. The gardens were entirely glorious. And the entire Gauguin-looking scene was draped by a series of mountains that looked like they'd been carved by a 16th-century Florentine sculptor. "See that structure up there?" the driver said, breaking his self-imposed silence and pointing to a rock formation at the top of one of the peaks that resembled a human figure. "That's called Peter Both. It's the second highest mountain in Mauritius. See the summit up there? It resembles a human head, right?" he noted with a finger pointed upward at the structure. "It definitely does," responded the artist. "When we were in elementary school," the chauffeur continued, "we were told the story of a man who fell asleep at the foot of the mountain. Hearing strange sounds, he woke up to see fairies and angels dancing all about him. These creatures instructed the man never to tell anyone what he had just seen or he would be turned to stone. He agreed, but then, given his excitement over the mystical experience he'd witnessed, broke his commitment and told many of his good fortune. Upset, the fairies and angels turned him to rock, and his head swelled to such a degree it rose to sit at the peak of the majestic mountain you both are looking at now, reminding everyone who sees it to keep their promises and honor their word." The SUV meandered past another community. Music played from a small loudspeaker on a front porch as 2 teenage boys and 3 teenage girls with white and pink flowers in their hair danced gleefully. Another dog barked modestly in the background. "Great story," noted the entrepreneur. Her window was open, and her wavy brown hair flitted in the wind. Her usually lined face now appeared completely smooth. She enunciated her words more slowly now. An unprecedented peacefulness emerged from her voice. One of her hands rested on the seat, not so far from where a hand of the artist, which bore finely etched tattoos on its middle and index fingers, lay. Mark Twain wrote, "Mauritius was made first, and then heaven, and heaven copied Mauritius," the driver shared, now warming up after being somewhat steely. He beamed as proudly as a president on Inauguration Day after saying what he'd just said. "Never seen anything like this," the artist said, his goth meets angry man hostility now replaced with a more untroubled, carefree and relaxed demeanor. "And the vibe I feel here is stirring something deeply creative inside of me." The entrepreneur glanced at the artist for a little longer than was politely acceptable. Then she looked away, out at the sea. Though reluctant, she couldn't help but smile gently. The driver could be heard whispering into the SUV's speakerphone, 5 minutes away. Then he handed each of his passengers a handcrafted tablet that seemed made of gold. "Please study these," he told them. Engraved, finally, in the apparently precious metal were 5 statements. Here's what the tablets looked like. Rule number 1. An addiction to distraction is the end of your creative production. Empire makers and history creators take 1 hour for themselves before dawn, in the serenity that lies beyond the clutches of complexity, to prepare themselves for a world-class day. Rule number 2. Excuses breed no genius. Just because you haven't installed the early rising habit before doesn't mean you can't do it now. Release your rationalizations and remember that small daily improvements, when done consistently over time, lead to stunning results. Rule number 3. All change is hard at first, messy in the middle and gorgeous at the end. Everything you now find easy you first found difficult. With consistent practice, getting up with the sun will become your new normal. And automatic. Rule number 4. To have the results the top 5% of producers have, you must start doing what 95% of people are unwilling to do. As you start to live like this, the majority will call you crazy. Remember that being labeled a freak is the price of greatness. Rule number 5. When you feel like surrendering, continue. Triumph loves the relentless. The vehicle slowed to a crawl as it passed an orderly row of faded white beach houses. A compact pickup truck was parked in the dusty driveway of one house. Dive gear was strewn across the front yard of another. In front of the last house, a gaggle of kids played in a yard, laughing hysterically as they enjoyed their game. The ocean appeared, both greenish and bluish with foam-topped waves making SHAA-oshing sounds before colliding with the sandy shore. The air now smelled a marine life smell, yet sweet like nectar with unexpected cinnamon hints blended into it. On a wide plank dock, a thin line of a man with a Santa Claus beard and rolled-up khakis fished barefoot for his family's dinner. A motorcycle helmet was perched on his old head. The sun was beginning to set, a glamorous sphere of blinding radiance that cast liquid yellow streaks and reflections on the welcoming water that lay before it. Birds still chirped. Butterflies still flew. Quite magical, All of this. We're here, announced the chauffeur into an intercom perched beside a metal fence that seemed to have been erected more to keep wildlife out than to prevent interlopers from getting in. The gate opened. Slowly. The SUV rolled down a winding road teeming with bougainvillea, hibiscus, frangipani and boucle d'oreille, the national flower of Mauritius, along the sides. The driver opened his window, inviting in a sea breeze carrying a swirling scent that also included fresh jasmine mixed with rich roses. Gardeners in smart gardening attire waved sincere waves. One shouted, "Bonjour," as the vehicle sailed by. Another said, "Bonjour," as two fat doves the size of a trucker's fist hopped along a stone path. The billionaire's house was low-key. The design was of the beachfront chic sort. Kind of a Martha's Vineyard cottage meets Swedish farmhouse feel. It was both sensationally beautiful and completely private. A massive veranda at the back of the home extended over the ocean. A muddy mountain bike leaned against a wall. A surfboard rested near the end of the driveway. Massive floor-to-ceiling windows were the only extravagant architectural flourish. More precious flowers were meticulously arranged along a deck where a trolley supporting hors d'oeuvres, assorted cheeses and a service of fresh lemon tea with precisely cut slices of ginger waited. Sun-bleached gray steps wound down to a breathtakingly lovely beach, the type seen in the travel magazines the elite crowd liked to read. Amid all this exquisiteness, an isolated figure stood on the milk-colored sand. He made not one movement. Perfect stillness. The man was Eiffel Tower tall, shirtless and bronzed, and sporting a pair of loose shorts with a camouflage pattern. Canary yellow sandals and uber-stylish sunglasses, the kind you might purchase on Via dei Condotti in Rome, completed the surfer Zen meets Soho swagger appearance. He peered out into the sea, remaining still as a star in the big African sky. "There," said the entrepreneur, pointing. "We finally get to see our host. The illustrious Mr. Riley," she noted energetically, picking up her pace as she hustled down the wooden stairs that led to the seashore. "Look at him. He's just hanging out by the water, soaking up those rays and totally lovin' life. Told you he's special. So happy I trusted my gut and agreed to this wonderful escapade. He's been true to his word, in a world where too many people say things they never do and make promises they fail to keep. He's been super consistent. He's treated us so well. He doesn't even know us, and yet he's really trying to help us. Zero doubt in my mind he's got our backs. Hurry up, will you?" she urged her slow-moving companion as she waved an encouraging hand. "I feel like giving Mr. Riley a giant hug." The artist laughed as a baby gecko jaywalked across a broad plank. He took off his black shirt in the dazzling sunshine, exposing a Buddha-sized belly and man breasts the size of fleshy mangoes. "Me, too. He does walk his preach. Man, I need to get some sun," the painter murmured as he sped up to stay close to the entrepreneur. He breathed hard. As the two guests walked toward the man at the water's edge of this nirvana of an ocean compound, they observed there were no other houses in sight. Not even one. Just a few wooden fishing boats with paint peeled off from the passage of years moored in the shallow waters near the shore. And aside from the sun-worshipping empire builder in Italian shades, there was no other human being in evidence. "Anywhere, Mr. Riley," shouted the artist, now on the sand hungrily sucking air into his extraordinarily unfit lungs. The slender figure remained as fixed as a palace guard awaiting the arrival of the royal motorcade. "Mr. Riley," echoed the entrepreneur passionately. No response. The man just kept looking out at the sea and at container ships the size of football stadiums that sat sprinkled across the horizon. The artist soon stood behind the set of intensely tanned shoulders of the figure and tapped 3 times on the left one. Instantly, the figure spun around. The two visitors gasped. The entrepreneur put a slender hand over her mouth. The artist jerked backward, instinctively, before falling to the sand. Both were stunned by what they saw. It was the Spellbinder. Chapter 7 Preparation for a Transformation begins in Paradise. A child has no trouble believing the unbelievable, nor does the genius or the madman. It's only you and I, with our big brains and our tiny hearts, who doubt and overthink and hesitate. Stephen Pressfield. Wow, declared the entrepreneur with a crooked smile that displayed part surprise and part delight. "We were at your seminar. You were brilliant up on that stage," she finally managed to express, pivoting impressively from soft shock to the master of the universe business bearing she was more accustomed to. "I lead a technology company. We're what pundits in our industry call a rocket ship, because of the exponential growth we've been experiencing. Things were going phenomenally well until a little while ago. The entrepreneur's voice trailed off. She looked away from the spellbinder and stared at the artist. For a moment she played nervously with her bracelets. The lines along her face became more vivid, and her visage gave off a heavy, tired and injured look in that instant, on that spectacular beach. "What happened?" asked the spellbinder. "To your business. Some of the people who invested in my enterprise felt I had too much equity in it. They wanted more for themselves. Super greedy people. So, they manipulated my executive team, convinced key employees to rally against me and are now trying to throw me out of the firm. That place is my whole life." The entrepreneur choked up. A school of luxuriously colored tropical fish swam through the shallow water at the edge of the sand. "I was ready to take my life," she carried on, "until I showed up at your seminar. Many of your nuggets of knowledge gave me hope. A lot of your words made me feel strong again. Not sure exactly what it was, but you pushed me to believe in myself and my future. I just want to thank you." She embraced the spellbinder. "You've started me on the journey to optimizing my life. Thank you so much for your generous words," the spellbinder replied, appearing dramatically different from the way he looked the last time the entrepreneur and the artist saw him. Not only did he have that healthy glow people get from time in the sun, he now stood steadily and had gained a little weight. "I'm grateful for what you've said," the spellbinder continued. "But the truth is that I didn't start you on the quest to improve your life. You are changing your life by starting the process of bringing application to my insights and methods, by implementing my teachings. So many people chat a good game. They tell you all the ambitions they're going to get done and all the aspirations they plan to deliver on. I'm not judging. I'm just reporting. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying. Most people stay the same their entire lives. Too frightened to leave the way they operated yesterday. Married to the complacency of the ordinary and wedded to the shackles of conformity while resisting all opportunity for growth, evolution and personal elevation. So many good souls among us are just so scared they refuse the call on their lives to go out into the blue ocean of possibility where mastery, the dignity of bravery and the authenticity of audacity await them. You had the wisdom to act on some of the information I shared at my event. You're one in a tiny minority of people alive today willing to do what it takes to become a better leader, producer and human being. Good on you. And I know transformation isn't an easy play. Yet, the life of the caterpillar must end for the glory of the butterfly to shine. The old, you, must die before the best, you, can be born. You're so smart not to wait until you have ideal conditions to step up to a work world and private life of stainless excellence. Great power is unleashed with a simple start. When you begin to close the loop opened by your utmost aspirations by making them real, a secret heroic force within you makes itself known. Nature notices your effortful actions and then goes ahead and replies to your faithful commitment with a series of unanticipated wins. Your willpower heightens, your confidence climbs, and your brilliance soars. A year from now, you'll be so happy you began today. Thank you, said the entrepreneur. I heard a man say he needed to lose weight before he could start running. Imagine that, lose the weight so he could initiate the running habit. That's like a writer who waits for inspiration to begin the book, or the manager who waits for a promotion to lead the field, or a startup that waits for full funding before launching a status quo disrupting product. The flow of life rewards positive action and punishes hesitation. Anyway, I'm thrilled I could contribute to your rise, in some small way. Sounds like you're at a difficult yet exciting time on your personal adventure. Please consider that a bad day for the ego is a great day for the soul. And what your voice of fear claims as a mean season the light of your wisdom knows is a splendid gift. We thought you were dead, the entrepreneur announced, unfiltered. Thank God you're okay. And I appreciate how humble you are. I believe the humblest is the greatest. Pure leaders are so secure in their own skin their main mission is the elevation of others. They have such self-respect, joyfulness and peacefulness within themselves that they don't need to advertise their success to society in a feeble attempt to feel a little better. I should also say, if I may, that there's a big difference between real power and fake power, the spellbinder explained, dropping even deeper into the guru mode that had made him so famous worldwide. Our culture tells us to pursue titles and trinkets, applause and acclaim, money and mansions. All that's fine. It truly is, so long as you don't get brainwashed into defining your worth as a human being by these things. Enjoy them, just don't get attached to them. Have them, just don't base your identity around them. Appreciate them, just don't need them. These are only forms of fake power our civilization programs us to believe we must pursue to be successful and serene. The fact is that should you lose any one of these things, the substitute power you derived from them evaporates. Just vanishes in an instant, revealing itself as the illusion it was. Tell us more, please. The entrepreneur was absorbing every word. Real power never comes from anything external, the spellbinder continued. A lot of people with a lot of money aren't very wealthy. Take that line to the bank, stated the spellbinder as he slipped off his bright yellow flip-flops and placed them neatly on the sugary sand. Genuine power, the stuff legends are made of, doesn't arise from who you are outside and what you possess externally. The world is lost right now. True and enduring power expresses itself when you contact your original gifts and realize your most lavish talents as a human. I should also say real riches come from living by the noble virtues of productivity, self-discipline, courage, honesty, empathy and integrity, as well as being able to lead your days on your own terms versus blindly following the sheep that so many in our sick society have been trained to become. Sheeple is what too many people now are. The excellent news is that this kind of power I speak of is available to anyone alive on the planet today. We might have forgotten and disowned this form of potency we have as life has hurt, disappointed and confused us. But it's still there waiting for us to build a relationship with it. And develop it. All of the great teachers of history owned very few things, you know. When Mahatma Gandhi died he had about 10 possessions, including his sandals, a watch, his eyeglasses and a simple bowl to eat from. Mother Teresa, so prosperous of heart and rich with the authentic power to influence millions, died in a tiny room containing almost no worldly goods. When she'd travel, she'd carry all her things in a white cloth bag. Why do so many of the heroes of humanity have so little? Asked the artist, now relaxing on the sand. Because they've reached a level of individual maturity that allowed them to see the futility of spending their days chasing objects that count for nothing at the end. And they had cultivated their characters to such a degree that they no longer had the common need of most to fill the holes within themselves with distractions, attractions, escapes and luxuries. The more their appetite for superficial possessions dematerialized, the more hungry they became for substantial pursuits like honoring their creative vision, expressing their inherent genius and living by a higher moral blueprint. They viscerally understood that being inspirational and masterful and fearless are all inside jobs. And once true power is accessed, external substitutes pale in comparison to the feelings of fulfillment this treasure provides. Oh, and these heavyweights of history, as they discovered their supreme natures, also came to realize that one of the primary aims of a wonderfully crafted life is contribution. Impact, usefulness, helpfulness, what business builders might call unlocking stakeholder value. Like I suggested at my seminar before I fell, to lead is to serve. The philosopher Rumi made the point much more brilliantly than I ever could when he observed, give up the drop, become the ocean. Thanks for sharing, offered the entrepreneur sincerely, sitting down next to the artist on the sand and placing one of her hands carefully only a short distance away from one of his. It's good to see you're doing better, mentioned the artist, his boots now off. He was sockless. As he basked in the strong rays like a sunbathing cat he asked, what the heck happened to you anyway? Exhaustion, confided the spellbinder. Too many cities, too many airplanes, too many media appearances, too many presentations. I just ground myself down in pursuit of my mission to help people accelerate their leadership, activate their gifts and become heroes of their lives. I know better. The spellbinder then pulled off his sleek sunglasses and extended a hand to his two students. It's a great pleasure to meet you both. You too, brother, the artist replied. Your work has helped me make it through some tough times. As the artist spoke these words, he spotted a catamaran overflowing with festively dressed tourists whizzing along in the distance. Another school of fish, called capitaines, could be observed swimming busily in the clear water. The spellbinder spied them, smiled broadly and then continued. You must be wondering why I'm here, he stated. True, said the entrepreneur as she took off her shoes and twisted her feet into the white sand alongside her companion. Well, I've been advising Mr. Riley since he was a 33-year-old man. All pro athletes have peak performance coaches, and so do all extraordinary businesspeople. You just can't get to iconic alone. He was starting out when we met, but even then he understood that the more one learns, the more one can achieve. Growth is the real sport that the best play, every day. Education truly is inoculation against disruption. And as you become better you will have better, within all arenas of your life. I call this the 2x3x mindset. To double your income and impact, triple your investment in 2 core areas, your personal mastery and your professional capability. Love it, the artist said as he scratched his flabby belly. Then he picked at a decrepit toenail. Mr. Riley understood, early on, that to rise to world class, you need world-class support. We've become fantastic friends over the years. We've shared tremendous joys together, like 5-hour-long lunches with palm heart salad, fresh grilled prawns and excellent French wine here on this private beach of his. The spellbinder stretched his arms into the air. He looked over at the mighty mountains. He remained silent for a few moments. And we've experienced deep sorrows together as well, like the time my buddy got sick with cancer just after his 50th birthday. He appeared to have everything a man could desire. But without his good health, he realized he had nothing. That one changed him. Health is the crown on the well person's head that only the ill person can see, you know. Or, as one tradition says, when we are young we sacrifice our health for wealth, and when we grow old and wise we realize what's most important, and become willing to sacrifice all our wealth for even one day of good health. You never want to be the richest person in the graveyard, you know. He beat it, though, the spellbinder quickly added, staring at the noisy tourists partying on the catamaran. Just like he defends himself against everything that tries to defeat his dreams. Stone's an amazing guy. I love him like a brother. Well, look, it really has been good to meet you both, the spellbinder continued. I heard you were coming. Mr. Riley's tremendously excited to share what he promised he'd share with you about reaching maximum productivity, sustaining exceptional performance and creating a life you love by coding in a superior morning routine. I'm pleased he's paying it forward and sharing what I, as his mentor, taught him. You'll love all the insights and learning models that will soon be coming your way. The 5 a.m. club will be revolutionary for you both. I know it sounds strange and unbelievable, but being exposed to the methodology Stone is about to teach you will cause outstanding shifts deep within you. Just being around the information will awaken something special in you. The spellbinder put on his chic sunglasses. Anyway, Mr. Riley asked me to tell you to make yourselves at home here over the next few days. You won't see a lot of me because I'll be snorkeling, sailing and fishing most of the time. Fishing is one of the things I most love to do in life. I come down to Mauritius not only to coach the great and kind soul you'll soon meet, I show up here to regenerate and get away from this overcomplicated world of ours, flush with so many difficulties, damaged economies, saturated industries and environmental decays, just to mention a few of the factors that threaten to bring down our creativity, energy, performance and happiness. I show up here to renew and refuel. Elite production without quiet vacation causes lasting depletion. Rest and recovery isn't a luxury for anyone committed to mastery, it's a necessity. I've taught that principle for many years, yet I forgot it myself, and paid the price at the event. I've also learned that inspiration gets fed by isolation, away from the ceaseless digital diversion and mindless overcommunication that dominates the hours of the majority these days. And, know too that your natural genius presents itself when you're most joyful. We get our ideas that change the world when we're rested, relaxed and filled with delight. This tiny spot in the Indian Ocean helps me reaccess my best. It's also a genuine sanctuary of safety, staggering beauty and awesome gastronomy, with affectionate people who still wear their hearts on their sleeves. I just adore the Mauritians. Most still have an appreciation for the wonders of life's simplest pleasures. Like family meals or swimming with friends, followed by sharing a roast chicken dinner purchased from the Super U, washed down with an ice-cold can of Phoenix. Phoenix? Asked the artist. It's the beer of Mauritius, replied the spellbinder. And I must say that I always leave the island 100 times stronger, faster, centered and fired up. I really work hard in my everyday life. I hope this doesn't sound like vanity, but I care so much about uplifting society and am so committed to doing my part to reduce the greed, hatred and conflict in it. Coming here remakes me, reconnects me to what's important. So I can go back and work for the world. We all work for the world, you know. Anyway, you two have fun, okay? And thanks again for coming to my seminar and for your positive words. They mean more to me than you could ever know. Anyone can be a critic. Takes guts to be an encourager. Being a high-impact leader never requires being a disrespectful person. I wish more leaders understood this principle. Oh, one last thing, the spellbinder added as he flicked some sand off his camouflage-patterned surf shorts. What? Asked the entrepreneur in a respectful tone. Please be here on the beach tomorrow morning. Your training will begin then. Sure, agreed the entrepreneur. What time? 5 a.m., came the reply. Own your morning. Elevate your life. Chapter 8 The 5 a.m. Method. The morning routine of world builders. It is well to be up before daybreak, for such habits contribute to health, wealth and wisdom. Aristotle. Welcome to the 5 a.m. club. The billionaire bellowed as he bounded down the steps from his seaside home. Bonjour. That's Creole for, good morning. You're right on time. I love it. Punctuality is the trait of royalty. At least it is in my playbook. Stone Riley's my name, he declared as he graciously extended a hand to greet his two guests. The tattered old clothes had been replaced with a black pair of trimly cut running shorts and a pristine white t-shirt with the line, "No idea works until you do the work," emblazoned on it. He was barefoot and cleanly shaven, seemed extremely fit and sported a wonderful suntan, all of which made him look many years younger than he had appeared at the seminar. On his head he wore a black baseball cap, turned backward. His green eyes were still uncommonly clear, and his smile was astonishingly radiant. Yes, there was something exceedingly special about this man, as the entrepreneur had sensed. A white dove hovered over the tycoon, floating in the air for about 10 seconds as if suspended by magic. Then it flew off. Can you imagine this? It was a miraculous thing to see. Let me give you two a hug, if you don't mind, the billionaire enthused, wrapping his long arms around the entrepreneur and the artist at the same time, without waiting for a reply. God, you have courage. Yes, you do, he mused. You trusted a disheveled old man. A total stranger. I know I looked like a vagrant the other day. Hey, it's not that I don't care about how I look. I just don't care that much about how I look, he said as he laughed at his own lack of self-consciousness. I just like to keep things real. Nice and simple, completely authentic. Makes me think of that old insight. Having lots of money doesn't make you different. It just makes you more of who you were before you made the cash. The billionaire peered out into the ocean and allowed the early rays of a fresh dawn to wash over him. He closed his eyes and inhaled deeply. The contours of his chiseled abdominal muscles were noticeable through his t-shirt. Next, he pulled a flower from the back pocket of his black shorts. Neither the entrepreneur nor the artist had ever seen a flower like this one. And it wasn't at all damaged from being in the billionaire's pocket. Strange. Flowers are very important to anyone serious about creating magic in their work and private lives, spoke the mogul as he sniffed the petals. Anywho, I wanted to mention that my father was a farmer. I grew up on a farm, before we moved to Southern California. We thought simple, spoke simple, ate simple and lived simple. You can take the boy out of the country, you know, but you can't take the country out of the boy, he added, expressing an enthusiasm that was contagious while his sights were riveted on the magnificent sea. The entrepreneur and the artist thanked the billionaire profusely. They explained that their adventure so far had been phenomenal and mentioned sincerely that the island and his exclusive beach were more beautiful than anything they had previously seen. Utopia, isn't it? Said the billionaire as he put on his sunglasses. I am blessed, that's for sure. I'm so glad you cats are here. So, was it your father who got you into the habit of getting up with the sun? Asked the artist as they strolled along the water's edge. A tiny crab raced by while 3 butterflies ascended above. Stunningly, the billionaire started twirling around like a whirling dervish. While he spun, he began to shout these words. I would have it inscribed on the curtains of your chamber. If you do not rise early you can make progress in nothing. What are you doing? Questioned the entrepreneur. It's an excellent quote from William Pitt, the Earl of Chatham. For some reason I just felt the need to share it right now. Anywho, let me answer the question about my father, the billionaire said awkwardly. Yes and no. I watched him rise early every morning of my childhood. As with any good routine, He did it so many times that it became impossible for him not to do it. But like most kids, I resisted what my dad wanted me to do. I always had some form of rebel within me. I'm a bit of a pirate in a way. Rather than fight a small war with me every day, for whatever reason, he just let me do what I wanted to do. So, I'd sleep late. Cool father, spoke the entrepreneur, who was dressed in yoga gear this morning and carried her device with her to take careful notes. He was, affirmed the billionaire, warmly putting his arms around his students as they continued to walk slowly along the pristine beach. Mr. Riley continued, it was actually the spellbinder who taught me the 5 a.m. method. I was a young man when I first met him. I'd just launched my first company. I needed someone to guide me, challenge me and develop me as an entrepreneur, a peak achiever and as a leader. Everyone said he was the best executive coach in the world, by far. He had a 3-year waiting list. So, I called him every day until he agreed to become my mentor. He was pretty young back then, too. But his teachings had a depth of wisdom, a purity of power and an ingenious impact that was remarkably advanced for his age. And the early rising discipline helped. The artist broke in. The billionaire smiled at the artist. And stopped walking. It was the one practice that changed, and elevated, every other practice. Researchers now call this kind of a core behavior that multiplies all your other regular patterns of performing, a keystone habit. Wiring it in as a profound neural pathway took some effort, a little suffering along the way and the strongest commitment I had in me. I'll be honest with you, there were days during the process of automating this routine that I was cranky, days when my head pounded like a jackhammer and mornings when I just wanted to keep sleeping. But once I locked and loaded getting up at 5 a.m. regularly, my days grew consistently, and vastly, better than anything I've ever experienced. How? Both listeners wondered aloud, in unison. The entrepreneur touched one of her fingers on the artist's arm affectionately, as if to suggest they were together in this experience, that they were now a team and that she had his best interests at heart. The artist locked his eyes onto hers. A gentle grin emerged. The billionaire went on. In this time of exponential change, overwhelming distractions and overflowing schedules, getting up at 5 a.m. and running the morning regime the spellbinder taught me was my antidote to average. No more rushing in my morning. Imagine what that alone does for the quality of your day. Starting your day luxuriating in the quietude only the early morning provides. Beginning your day feeling strong and centered and free. I found that my mind became dramatically more focused as the days progressed. Every great performer, whether we're talking about a championship athlete, a top-tier executive, a celebrated architect or a revered cellist, has developed the ability to concentrate on optimizing their particular skill for long, uninterrupted periods of time. This capability is one of the special factors that allows them to generate such high-quality results in a world where too many people dilute their cognitive bandwidth and fragment their attention, accepting poor performances and ordinary achievements while leading lives of disappointing mediocrity. I definitely agree, indicated the artist. It's rare to see someone focus on their art for many, many hours in a row these days. The spellbinder was right when at his session he called people addicted to their devices, cyber zombies. I see them every day. It's like they're not real human beings anymore. More like robots, glued to their screens. Not present, and half alive to life. I hear you, said the billionaire. Protection from distraction is precisely how you need to work if you're serious about dominating your field and winning at your craft. Neuroscientists call this peak mental state we're speaking of, where our perception becomes heightened and our availability to original ideas rises and we access an all-new level of processing power, flow. And rising at 5 a.m. promotes the flow state gorgeously. Oh, and by getting up at before daybreak, while almost everyone around you is asleep, my creativity also soared, my energy definitely doubled, my productivity surely tripled, You're serious? The entrepreneur interrupted, unable to contain her fascination with the idea that a simple shift toward a bespoke morning routine could reorder a human life so completely. Absolutely. Honesty has been one of my core convictions for all my years in business. Nothing beats going to sleep early each night with an unspoiled conscience and a mess-free heart. That's part of my farm boy nature, I guess, observed the billionaire. Abruptly, the entrepreneur's phone signaled the arrival of an urgent incoming message. So sorry. I told my team not to call me here. I was clear with them. I can't imagine why they're bothering me now, she said as she looked down at the screen. In all caps, the following stark words appeared. Leave the company, or else you die. The entrepreneur fumbled with her phone. Then she accidentally dropped it into the sand. Soon she was gasping for air. What happened? The artist asked quickly, sensing trouble. Seeing the blood wash out of his friend's face and her hands trembling, he repeated with greater intensity and even higher empathy, what happened? The billionaire also appeared concerned. Are you okay? Do you need some water or something? I just received a death threat. From, my investors. They want my firm. They are, trying to kick me out because they think I have too big a share. They just told me that if I don't walk away they'll, kill me. Instantly, the billionaire ripped off the sunglasses he was sporting and held them in the air, making a circling movement. Seconds later, from behind a flourish of palm trees, two large men with earpieces and rifles sprinted down to the beachfront as fast as a cyclist on steroids. Boss, you all right? The tallest of the two big men asked tensely. Yes, came the confident and calm reply to his security detail. But I need you two to check this out immediately, if it's cool for me to do this for you, he said as he looked at the entrepreneur. I can help you make this go away. The billionaire then muttered something to himself. And a flight of doves soared by. Sure, yes, I'd appreciate some help, the businesswoman replied, her voice still shaking and pearls of perspiration appearing on her forehead, in the area where all those creases were. Leave this with us, declared the billionaire. He then spoke to his protection people, politely yet with an undeniable air of authority. Seems my guest here is being seriously harassed by some thugs hoping to take over her enterprise. Please figure out exactly what they're up to and then present me with your solution. Don't worry, he told the entrepreneur. My guys are the best in the business. This won't be a problem. Mr. Riley articulated this last sentence in a fashion that emphasized each word, for powerful effect. Thank you very much, the entrepreneur responded, looking enormously relieved. The artist held her hand tenderly. Okay, if I continue, the billionaire requested as the sun rose higher into the glamorous tropical sky. His guests nodded. An attendant, impeccably attired, emerged from a hut that sat higher up on the beach. It was painted green with white trim. Soon, the aide was serving the richest, most delicious coffee the entrepreneur and the artist had enjoyed in their lives. Fantastic cognitive enhancer when consumed in moderation each morning, expounded the billionaire as he sipped away. And it's packed with antioxidants, so coffee also slows aging. Anywho, where were we? I was telling you about the awesome benefit that flowed to me after I joined the 5 a.m. club and ran the morning methodology the spellbinder revealed to me. It's called the 20-20-20 formula and, trust me, once you learn this concept alone and then apply it with persistency, your productivity, prosperity, performance and impact will increase exponentially. I can't think of another ritual that has contributed to my success and well-being as much. I'm exceedingly low-key about what I've been able to accomplish in my business career. I've always viewed bragging as a major defect of character. The more powerful a person truly is, the less they need to promote it. And the stronger a leader is, the less they need to announce it. The spellbinder spoke a bit about what you've been able to achieve, offered the entrepreneur, now looking even more relaxed. And the wild way you dressed at the conference definitely confirmed it. Interjected the artist, flashing a sensational smile that showcased a few broken teeth. Rising at 5 a.m. every morning was the main personal practice that made most of that happen. Allowed me to become a visionary thinker. Gave me a reflective space to develop a formidable inner life. The discipline helped me to become ultra fit, with all the beautiful income advancements as well as lifestyle enhancements that come with superior health. Early rising also made me a pretty amazing leader. And it helped me grow myself into a much better person. Even when the prostate cancer tried to devastate me, it was my morning routine that insulated me. It really was. I'll go into the 20-20-20 formula in an upcoming lesson so you'll know exactly what to do to get amazing results from the first moment you wake up. You cats won't believe the power and value of the information that's coming. I'm so excited for you too. Welcome to paradise. And welcome to the first day of a substantially better life. The entrepreneur slept more soundly that night in Mauritius than she had in years. Despite the threat she had received, the combination of the billionaire's brief instruction, the magnificence of the natural setting, the purity of the clean ocean air and her growing fondness for the artist caused her to let go of many of her concerns and rediscover a state of calm she'd long since forgotten. Then, at precisely 3:33 a.m., she heard a thunderous bang on her door. She knew it was this time because she glanced at the alarm clock on the wooden night table in the stylish guesthouse her host had arranged for her to stay in. The entrepreneur assumed it was the artist, perhaps dealing with jet lag or sleepless after the excellent yet large dinner they had enjoyed together. Without asking who it was, she opened the door. No one was there. "Hello," she announced to a star-filled sky. Waves softly collided with the seashore near her cottage, and the scents of roses, incense and sandalwood could be detected in the breeze. "Anyone here?" Silence. The entrepreneur carefully shut the door. This time, she bolted the lock. As she shuffled back to her bed that was covered with Egyptian cottons and English linens, 3 mighty knocks pounded on the door. "Yes," cried the entrepreneur, now alarmed. "Yes, we have the morning coffee you ordered, madam," a husky voice replied. The entrepreneur's face was crowded by crevices again. Her heart began to thump vigorously. She grew deeply distressed, and her stomach filled with knots as humongous as the Alps. "They're bringing me coffee at this nutso hour. Unbelievable." The spellbinder spoke a bit about what you've been able to achieve, offered the entrepreneur, now looking even more relaxed. "And the wild way you dressed at the conference definitely confirmed it," interjected the artist, flashing a sensational smile that showcased a few broken teeth. "Rising at 5 a.m. every morning was the main personal practice that made most of that happen. Allowed me to become a visionary thinker. Gave me a reflective space to develop a formidable inner life. The discipline helped me to become ultra-fit, with all the beautiful income advancements as well as lifestyle enhancements that come with superior health. Early rising also made me a pretty amazing leader. And it helped me grow myself into a much better person. Even when the prostate cancer tried to devastate me, it was my morning routine that insulated me. It really was. I'll go into the 20-20-20 formula in an upcoming lesson so you'll know exactly what to do to get amazing results from the first moment you wake up. You cats won't believe the power and value of the information that's coming. I'm so excited for you too. Welcome to paradise. And welcome to the first day of a substantially better life." The entrepreneur slept more soundly that night in Mauritius than she had in years. Despite the threat she had received, the combination of the billionaire's brief instruction, the magnificence of the natural setting, the purity of the clean ocean air and her growing fondness for the artist caused her to let go of many of her concerns and rediscover a state of calm she'd long since forgotten. Then, at precisely 3:33 a.m., she heard a thunderous bang on her door. She knew it was this time because she glanced at the alarm clock on the wooden night table in the stylish guesthouse her host had arranged for her to stay in. The entrepreneur assumed it was the artist, perhaps dealing with jet lag or sleepless after the excellent yet large dinner they had enjoyed together. Without asking who it was, she opened the door. No one was there. "Hello," she announced to a star-filled sky. Waves softly collided with the seashore near her cottage, and the scents of roses, incense and sandalwood could be detected in the breeze. "Anyone here?" Silence. The entrepreneur carefully shut the door. This time, she bolted the lock. As she shuffled back to her bed that was covered with Egyptian cottons and English linens, 3 mighty knocks pounded on the door. "Yes," cried the entrepreneur, now alarmed. "Yes, we have the morning coffee you ordered, madam," a husky voice replied. The entrepreneur's face was crowded by crevices again. Her heart began to thump vigorously. She grew deeply distressed, and her stomach filled with knots as humongous as the Alps. "They're bringing me coffee at this nutso hour. Unbelievable." She returned to the front of the guest house, undid the lock and opened the front door, haltingly. A stocky man with a disagreeable bald head and one eye that seemed out of joint stood there, smirking. He wore a red windbreaker and denim shorts that dropped just below his knees. Around his neck was a thin piece of blue string. Dangling from it was a plastic laminated photo of a person's face. The entrepreneur squinted to see the face more clearly in the darkness. And as she did, she saw the image of an older man. One she knew very well. One she loved very much. One she missed considerably. The picture in the plastic she was studying was of her dead father. "Who are you?" screamed the terrified entrepreneur. "How did you get this photo?" "I've been sent by your business partners. We know everything there is to know about you." "Everything?" We've tracked all your personal data. We've hacked all your files. We've investigated your entire history." The bald man in the windbreaker reached under the front of his belt and pulled out a knife, bringing it to within a few inches of the entrepreneur's thin and particularly veiny throat. "No one can protect you now. We have an entire team focused on you. I'm not going to hurt you, yet. This time's just about me making a point. Giving you an in-person message. Leave your company, give up your equity, and say bye-bye, or you get this blade in your neck. When you least expect it. When you think you're safe. Maybe with that chubby painter friend of yours." The man pulled the knife away and replaced it under his belt. "Have a good night, madam. It's been a pleasure meeting you. I know we'll see each other soon." Then he reached forward and pulled the door shut with a slam. The entrepreneur, badly shaken, fell to her knees. "Please, God, help me. I can't take this anymore. I don't want to die." 3 more strikes came to the door. These ones were gentler. "Hey, it's me. Please open the door." The knocking startled the entrepreneur and woke her up. The tapping continued. She opened her eyes, peered around the lightless room, and realized she'd been caught in a bad dream. The businesswoman rose from her bed, shuffled across the wide planked oak floor and opened the front door, knowing it was the artist after hearing his familiar voice. "I just had the most insane dream," said the entrepreneur. "A brutal man showed up here, had a piece of plastic hanging from his neck with a photo of my dad in it and threatened to stab me with a knife if I didn't give my firm over to the investors." "You okay now?" the artist asked softly. "I'll be fine. I had an unusual dream, too," the artist explained. "I couldn't sleep after it. It's got me thinking about so many things. The quality of my art. The depth of my belief system. The foolishness of my excuses. My cynical attitude. My aggressiveness. My self-sabotage and my endless procrastination. I'm analyzing my daily routines. And how I'll spend the rest of my life." "Hey, you sure you're okay?" the artist questioned, realizing he was talking a little too much about himself and not empathizing with his alarmed companion. "I'm fine. Better now that you're here." "You sure?" "Yes. I missed you," the artist said. "Do you mind if I tell you more about my dream?" "Go ahead," encouraged the entrepreneur. "Well, I was a little kid, at school. And every day, I'd pretend I was 2 things, a giant and a pirate. All day long, I believed I had the strength of a giant and the rule-breaking swagger of a pirate. I told my teachers I was these 2 characters. And at home, I told my parents the same thing. My teachers laughed at me, and put me down, telling me to be more realistic, to behave more like the other kids and to stop all my ridiculous dreaming." "What did your parents say? Were they kinder to you?" asked the entrepreneur, now sitting on the sofa with her legs crossed in a yoga posture. "Same as my teachers. They told me I wasn't a giant, and that I definitely was no pirate. They reminded me that I was a little boy, and told me that if I didn't limit my imagination, stifle my creativity and put an end to my fantasies, they'd punish me. So, what happened? I did what I was told to do. I caved in. I bought into the attitudes of the adults. I made myself tinier instead of grander, so I'd be a good boy. I suffocated my hopes, gifts and powers in an effort to conform, like most people do every single day of their lives. I'm starting to realize how much we've been hypnotized away from our brilliance and brainwashed out of our genius. The spellbinder and the billionaire are right. Tell me more about your dream, the entrepreneur urged. I began to mold myself to the system. I started to become a follower. I no longer believed I was as powerful as a giant and as swashbuckling as a pirate. I sheepwalked with the flock, becoming like everybody else. Eventually I grew into a man who spent money I didn't have, buying things I didn't need to impress people I didn't like. What a poor way to live. I do some of that behavior too, admitted the entrepreneur. I'm learning so much about myself, thanks to this very weird and hugely useful voyage. I'm starting to realize how superficial I've been, how selfish I am and how many good things I actually have going for me in my life. Many people in the world couldn't even imagine experiencing all the blessings I have. Got you, said the artist. So, in my dream, I became a bookkeeper. I married and had a family. I lived in a subdivision. And drove a good car. I had a fairly nice life. A few true friends. Work that paid my mortgage, and a salary that handled my bills. But each day looked the same. Gray versus vivid. Boring instead of enchanting. As I got older, the children left home to live lives of their own. My body aged, and my energy fell. And, unfortunately, my wife in my dream passed away. As I grew even older, my eyesight began to fail, my hearing began to fade, and my memory became extremely weak. This is making me feel sad, voiced the entrepreneur, sounding vulnerable. And when I got really old, I actually forgot where I lived, couldn't remember my name, and lost all sense of who I was in the community. But, get this, I began to remember who I truly was again. A giant, and a pirate. Right, exactly, replied the artist. The dream made me understand that I can't postpone doing amazing work anymore. That I can't put off improving my health, my happiness, my confidence, and even my love life. Really? Wondered the entrepreneur wistfully. Really? Responded the artist. He then reached forward and kissed her on the forehead.